Probably easier just to introduce the main characters of my being here. Uh, my dad was Joseph Leo Wasco, was born in Georgetown, Illinois. He was the eighth child of 18 children. Shortly after he was born, Grandma Wasco took he and his 7 older siblings got on a train and went to live in Arkansas. My grandfather that year was either working from south to north in food production in the Midwest, or he was working in a mine. He did either one during the summers and especially the winters. Then Mom was born in Hydro, Oklahoma, actually between three towns. And her name was Dorothy O. Gilmore. Actually, her when she was born, she was named Dorothy Gilmore. When she was in junior high, she added the O period as middle initial, because she thought, everybody else had it, she should have it. Then eventually that became Opal, so that her first teaching degree says Dorothy O. period Gilmore, and after that it says Dorothy Opal Gilmore. She came to Idaho in about 1936. She had to go down to the teaching school, Albion, in southern Idaho, down by Burley, for 6 weeks before she could teach in Idaho. So she taught at Castle Ford. When Dad was young, he could pick fruit in California or Idaho, and in about 36, he decided to just go to Idaho and stay. And they met in Castle Ford. Dad opened up a shop in 38, and he could see the school marm walk by, and of course he didn't know who she was or anything about her until at a dance. He saw her on the sideline, went over, picked her up, and said, "Come dance." "I can't dance." "Yeah, you're going to dance with me." So, true love from then on. My oldest brother was born in 40, next brother in 42. I was born in 45, and my 3 sisters were born in 47, 49, 51. The 3 Wasco boys had some kind of a reputation of, every time we went somewhere, we'd always hear, "Oh, it's those Wasco boys again." I personally wasn't responsible for that, but I was a follower. I was building a stagecoach for my sisters. I had a piece of wood in here that I just cut off from, and there's a piece sitting right there. I went to do that, and nothing happened. It was still there. And I dropped the piece of wood, and I was sweating, and here was this finger hanging down in front of me, with just a little bit of skin left. I wrapped it in a white handkerchief, ran up to the shop to get Dad to take me to the doctor's office. And I thought I was pretty brave. I started undoing it so I could show him. And next thing I knew, I was on the floor looking up in their faces. And he said, "There's a 1 in 1,000 chances of you even being able to keep it, that it'll grow back. That it'll provide innervation as well as flow of blood." and even less chance of you being ever able to bend it. So, so the next day, I was out playing baseball. But I think that's what brought me through, is that I was always doing stuff, and that the doctor was wise enough to put a soft cast on it instead of a hard cast. My birth mother died in '58. The day that my brother graduated, she hung on. She had cancer for about 6 years. She hung on just long enough to see him graduate. There was a lot of women that were interested in Dad. After a bunch of fits and starts, he came across Shirley. He had 6 kids. She had 6 kids. She had 2 girls and 4 boys. We were 3 and 3. So they married June 2nd, 1962. They were married for 44 years. There was pain and sorrow and a lot of love that went along with all that. So I went to Linfield to play baseball, and I ended up being a full-time student, full-time baseball player, full-time worker. Met a lot of great people there. When we first started baseball, we started December 8th every year because that's when the pitchers and catchers had to report to baseball. See that finger? When I cut it off, I no longer had a fork ball. I no longer had a knuckle ball. But I could do strange things with that ball, that I could have that dance, jump, drop, just do all sorts of things just out of nowhere. I dropped out of school after 2.5 years at Linfield, bummed around, hitchhiked all over the country. Came back to Idaho, entered the University of Idaho. So my majors were sciences. I had a minor in chemistry, which was really organic chemistry. Major in biology. Another major in science, earth sciences. Minor in languages. Driver's ed. A lot of different things. So I lived in Galt Hall, and the way I met my best wife, and you know she's my only wife, but the other side of that best wife stuff is I'm her worst husband. So I lived in Galt Hall, and the phone was in our wing, and nobody answered the phone except me. And her brother lived around through 2 doors and fire doors, and so I would run down, answer the phone, and I could tell that she was just a cute little chick. No, I no matter who it was I talked to, but I ended up really liking to talk to Jeannie Marie. Then after talking to her for a while, then I would go get her brother. We graduated from college on June 1st, and on June 2nd we were married in Nez Perce, 1969. I was mad at Jeannie about one thing. She let the boys, her brothers, have the keys to the car. So guess what? So I hollered at her. Father Ryan heard that. He had a talk with me about don't hurt her or you'll be answering to me. And Father Ryan was just a great guy. Jeannie graduated in 3.5 years, went to teach at New Meadows. I ended up teaching the sophomore class, happened to be a very good bunch of kids, bunch of smart kids, and I ended up teaching a college level biology class to them because they caught on, they loved it. They could do the memorization that you have to do in sciences, especially in biology. Um, it was delightful. Also taught Spanish, forestry, psych. Well, small school. You have to, and I had, something covering all of those. And we taught there for another 2 years. Jeannie taught there for 2.5 years. Ah, yes. Boyd and Grace Martin. We had just left New Meadows, and our friends down there who had lived with the Martins previously, Krigbaums, had said something to the Martins, and the Martins were coming back through Nespers and drove on out to the ranch and introduced themselves. And even though I already knew Boyd because I was in um, letters and science at one time. Okay, yeah, we moved into their basement. This was 1314 Walenta Street in Moscow. And there was a separate entrance for their basement. And then there was a separate entrance that would go right into the other half of the basement and stairs on up. So they lived upstairs. They made up their mind that they were going to take their money and grow it as much as they could to have an institute for the study of the conditions of peace and the causes of war. So in the early 70s, they started setting it up, drafting papers that they could accomplish this. And by about 75, they were ready to ask the University of Idaho. So we had to clear it through them. And they didn't want to do anything at first. And so the upshot is that they started the discussion, and Grace died in 79. The University of Idaho started talking earnestly with Boyd about setting it up. So in 79, it was set up, and we grew slowly by fits and falls. We had people that was on the board from all over the world. We just call it the Martin. We refer to it as that. It's known throughout campus as the Martin. At one time we had almost 200 students in it, but it was more than we could handle. We now have 3 faculty, and we're down to, I think, roughly 120, 119 students. We went back, finished our masters. We'd already been working on those during the summers. And that's when I decided that I was going to go to law school. It feels like it's we that went to law school because it's not just one person. It takes the whole family. So Jake was born in 74 and Malia was born in 78. When we had kids, I learned to come home 5:30, do whatever needed to do, change diapers, whatever Jeannie needed for help. One of the things I forgot when I was one of the many jobs I had while I was going to school at Linfield was also as a short order cook. Can't forget that one because that comes in handy quite a few times in my life. In 1980, I became the prosecutor. Spent 16 years doing that. During the time I was a prosecutor, I had all sorts of cases. like law is. Every day I learn something new, different. And I think that's true of life in general. If you don't continue to learn, I don't think, it just doesn't seem like you continue to live. We had two kinds of parties. We had our enchilada parties every Friday night, and the other party was drink beer with all the relatives and friends that would show up. And when Jeannie's brothers and sisters would come home from school, they chose us, and I, of course, couldn't deny them. Ivan and Dinah Nuxall, some of our favorite friends that came to Enchiladas quite a little bit. Dinah and I had first met in college. She was a year older than I was, and she was an RA at one of the girls' halls. And fast forward till I was age 33, and Father Ryan decided that I was going to be Jesus in the ecumenical pageant here that we had up at the gym. And then I hear this voice, "Hey, that's Mike Wasco. I know him. I know him." Booming all throughout the gym. and I even said, and I could hear him saying in quite a little bit softer voice, "Yeah, you know him. That's Jesus." So then she came up to me, then we proceeded out, and we were in the foyer of the gym, and she comes walking out. I hear her voice, "Mike Wasco." I can't even see her yet, but I can hear her booming, and she walked up to me and says, "You're Mike Wasco who pitched for Linfield, right?" Yeah. We became very close friends. Like nobody but Ivan could. Just he knew what I was thinking, and I knew what he was thinking, and we could talk without saying anything. And he knew when to lay on the soap suds and when to lay back. Yeah, because, my job was pretty stressful at times, hearing the worst of mankind, and so it helped to have somebody that knew how I was feeling without having to talk about it. Very good friend. Yeah, and see, Lynn, Boots, and Verge and Liz were very close friends of mine. They all were. But I think that mutual respect, you can't love somebody else unless you love yourself. You can't respect somebody else. You cannot demand respect until you can respect yourself. You cannot have friends until you can be a friend. Be kind. No, I haven't said everything that I want to say, but I don't see the point of expressing that on tape. Kids can ask questions later when I'm gone.